Hello everybody in the chess world. I'm here continuing my series on crazy unusual openings, and today we're going to see the Caro-Kann, the Bruycker variation. So well, we all know the Caro-Kann is basically e4 c6, and after d4 natural move, and almost eternal move for black is d5. But the Bruycker variation is knight on a6. This weird modern variation, in the Caro-Kann. So it's a modern move, if you will. It's a knight on the rim. And, well, what are the ideas? Well, mainly soon, first of all, I'm going to analyze the possible bishop takes on a6, which visually might be the first thing that comes to our minds, like what happens there. But, the idea for this knight will go to, come to this c7 square. I like how soon this happens, right? We played c6. We still have the idea of playing d5, but we've vacated the c7 square for the knight. So let us imagine that later on we play d5 and white goes for the advanced variation. Well, then the pawns will be pretty fixed. We'll have the pawns on the light squares, and black will have the pawns on the dark square. So maybe this knight from c7 in that case will be interested in going to e6, a square from which that knight will be looking at the dark squares to complement, light and dark squares. So these are vaguely the ideas, but let us go to the concrete variation. So let us first begin with bishop takes on a6. Again, the first move that we look at. And I guess the first time I was glancing at this, I was thinking, well, maybe b takes a6. I mean, our pawn chain is awful and we have double pawns, but we do have the pair of bishops and the b file open for the rook. But no, there's nothing like that. We just go queen on a5 check, followed by queen takes on a6. So this is the first curious thing if you've never seen this. And knight c3, queen takes a6. So, well, even actually we're preventing for now the short castle, so the queen is in a nice diagonal. I mean, in here, this is playable for white, although I think black basically equalizes every time. And most logical continuation will be knight g2, blocking the diagonal to play castles. Before showing you that, I want to briefly show you, for example, queen e2 has been tried, and we can exchange and always play e6 with idea of castles d5. There is the move d5 interesting here, just typical white play. The first idea is to prevent black from playing what he wants, and then we'll see what to do. But then we can play f5 and undermining the pawn chain. And well, white can play this, for example, bishop on f4. We take it. Watch out for the d5 pawn before recapturing on e4. White should take that, and after d takes c. Well, we can play b takes, and we have this big center, knight takes e4, d5. We do return the pair of bishops here, but, knight on h6. A lot of times we'll see this knight on g8 going to h6, and mostly combining with the knight on c7, but even here, where the knight on c7 has disappeared, well, you can see we go into f7, winning a tempo, controlling on e5, and here, I don't know, we can kick out with this knight, and if knight b5, we play castles so as not to care about this possible move. So I guess we're fine. The long castles, bishop on d7. This is kind of fine. Going back to this line, there is also this interesting move, queen d3. So when we exchange, well, at least white claims to have also some sort of big center, and not bad, maybe having the c file open for the rook. This is playable. Again, we can just go for this e6 on d5, castles knight on e7, and well, I mean, it's playable for both sides, but no problem for black on the opening. I guess I don't think actually that on the third move white should take this knight on a6. But if they do, and we reach this position, well, knight g2 will be the most logical way to continue. And in here, well, I mean, there are a lot of lines, but again, we can just try to go for a normal d5, previous e6, and again, I don't think here white should actually play bishop takes on e6. But, well, let me offer, before going to the main lines I want to go to, I want to offer you more than one move. But because first, we have this c4. This is an interesting thing because, well, again, white is first trying to prevent d5. And we could go for knight on c6 now, just to insist on going on d5. But I like this move g6, and this we will see a lot. In a lot of lines, we can fianchetto the dark square bishop, and it'll combine coolly with this knight on c7 d5 plan. So for example, knight on c3, bishop on g7, bishop on e3, knight on c7 finally, sorry, queen d2, typical, just going for, waiting for black to castle and then exchange the dark square bishop. So we go d5, and a logical normal reaction is to take and then advance the pawn. So now h5. Now you can see this more Gurgenidze-like, right? I really like this. And bishop on d3. Again, as in the Gurgenidze, we're going to play this knight on h6. Even more now than that the bishop is right here, because, after knight g2, we come down here just to exchange it, right? And, remember, white cannot start by removing the defender of our bishop, because bishop takes is hitting the queen. So, they will castles, or either castle of f3, we can exchange bishops and sneak the knight on f5, and after bishop on f2, just queen d7. I mean, after short castles, I think you can already see that this is quite a satisfactory position for us. This knight on c7 is always flirting with the possibility of going to e6. So remember not to rush the solid e6. The other thing is, if we keep maintaining this pawn in here, sometimes f6 is a pawn break. And, last but not least, in this line, if long castles, we already have b5 with an attack, so white has to be careful, right? And going back to this moment, instead of going for either bishop takes on a6 or dc4, knight c3 is the most natural move, right? I think it's the most natural of all. And of course, we're going to play knight on c7. Now, I'm going to show you a few games of, 3 games in particular of the Grandmaster Markovic, which when he was, I think, the strongest player playing the Bruycker variation of the Caro-Kann. Always he was like 25-20, but this was like the 90s and the 2000s. So pretty strong GM. So this first game is against a weak player. So I want to show you first a game against a weak player, then an intermediate kind of strong, and then a super strong GM, stronger than himself, and to show you what we can do in here. So this guy was named Popovic, and he played knight on f3. If you like this line, you'll see this setup for white quite often. I mean, it is the normal classical setup, knight on c3, knight on f3, and the light square bishop either on e2 or on c4. So again, we're going for the fianchetto, and bishop on e2, again, the most normal and solid line, bishop g7 castles, and g6. Now we have a modern, like the Shirov's modern that I already showed you. Again, I'll leave you the links in the description. But with this knight on c7, I like how this the Bruycker variation of the Caro-Kann is the cousin of the Gurgenidze of some parts. Again, so many transpositions, but with this particular knight on c7. So I really like this. The game, Markovic won a miniature on this game because of an early mistake by white. But let us see this, because it certainly doesn't look like black can win quickly in here. So h3 was the move, knight on f6, bishop on e3, castles. Queen d2, again, typical plan of coming here to exchange bishops. g5 finally, which allows e5, but quite calmly Markovic just goes knight f on e8. Bishop on h6, the previous idea, and as I said, this knight appears on e6. I said that on the beginning of the video, with the close center like this. The knight can complement looking at dark square. So bishop takes g7, the knight 8 took on g7. Now you can see, as in the Gurgenidze, this knight might look at f5. And after rook f1, Markovic won aggressive immediately. He played f5. So his opponent Popovic said, I'm going to take on passant, but e takes f6. Again, the virtue of still having that pawn on e7. And after bishop on f1, knight on f5. I mean, it's already looking somewhat menacing, black's pieces, right? And, I guess Popovic wanted to fight against this knight, so he played knight on e2, trying to control the square, maybe just trying to go for knight on f4 next. And knight d6, there is a time for maneuvering, and now you can see that there is a pretty juicy square on e4, which will also win a tempo on the queen. So knight g3 came, of course, to control that. This is logical. Now the knight and the rook are controlling the e4 square. But, well, just Markovic just replays again, you know, this f5. And Popovic went rook on e5, but f4, it's already a strong move. Now black is slightly better. Okay, here Popovic blundered badly. I mean, you might be wondering, this is already move 18. What do you mean this was a miniature? Well, okay, he's going to resign next move. But, okay, the best move was the most passive one, knight on h1. And in here, there are two possibilities for black to get a slight advantage. One is a logical knight on e4, hitting the queen. And after queen on e1, just queen on b6, you know, putting pressure here, here, and here, let us say. But we can also, instead of knight on e4, we could even play knight on f7, kicking out the rook. And after rook on e2, just going for this knight f on g5. So more into the attack. But okay, in the game, Popovic just went knight on e2, blundering because now the bishop is not controlling c4 anymore. After knight on c4, hitting both the queen and both the rook. Maybe it wasn't so terrible for resignation, but okay, Popovic resigned. So forget about the fact that this was a miniature. I think it's interesting that the strategy presented by Markovic. But I want to show you two more games. So let us go back to this position, and as in Popovic-Markovic, we saw like this knight on f3, g6, and now this stronger player than Popovic, which was Radolski. Radolski played h4, and this is, for me, it's interesting to show you this because, well, if you like this line, a lot of opponents are going to try this with the knight on f3 or not, but this typical idea of h4, h5 is, you know, again, anytime black plays g6, this happens a lot. I will recommend you to play the h5, just stopping the pawn. Radolski playing knight g5, which is a good move. This is classical, since black played h5. There won't be much control of this square, so why not? But again, the modern knight on h6 and already solidifying this. And the game followed bishop on g4, on f4, sorry, bishop on g7, queen d2 and d5. Long castles, which seems to be the strongest move, but I really like the way Markovic handles this position. So he took the pawn, and okay, taking the pawn is a pretty obvious move, and against any knight takes on e4, we can castle, we can play bishop on f5. But again, Radolski showing that he's a strong player, play this d5 move. I'm not saying that this is the best move, but it is quite an ambitious move. I like this. I think this is one move that I might play with the white pieces. But again, Radolski resolved things quite calmly because, yeah, by exchanging queens, he feels some relief since he hasn't castled yet. But it's true that, well, this bishop on b5 check comes before recapturing the pawn on d5. And just simple and calm again, king on f8. Because after rook takes d5, this simple bishop on f5 move is equalizing. And look at what happened in the game. I'll just show you two more moves to show you how the tables can turn. Not even turn, because the position has been kind of equal you know, through the whole game. But doubling up the rooks is logical. And like, what do we do with the king? Do you think this is an awful position? Because Markovic said, well, so calm, bishop on f6, I'm just going to continue with king on g7. And, well, it's not so easy to play with white, right? I mean, Radolski played a check, but after king on g7, well, now actually black is better. So I'll stop analysis here. But okay, this is only one line. The main thing is, remember, if they play h4, although you're not forced to, I do recommend to stop the h5 by playing it yourself. You want to play knight on h6 anyway and have control of the square, sometimes playing bishop on h6, so more than ever we can play that. And the last game that I wanted to show you is basically, well, we're going to see against Zoltan Almasi, right? Like the stronger opponent, I think, that Markovic faced. So Zoltan Almasi was already, I think, 2,700. This was 2,000. And Markovic on this game was, again, 2550. So Zoltan Almasi tried c3, more like an alapin, you know, like variation. And after knight on c7, f4. So Zoltan was definitely holding the d4 pawn, but to make this, well, f4, like this pawn storm in the center. Interesting, ambitious way to play. And of course, this is super strong GM. So after d5 and e5, well, you can see now h5. I mean, again, this is classical pawn chain as in the Gurgenidze. Of course, h5, and we can insist on going g6, and I mean, it really is a Gurgenidze, but with a knight on c7. I like much more the knight on c7 than on b8, or let us say than on d7, where the knight could go here. I really like this. I play this quite often, this Caro-Kann, the Bruycker variation. Really like it. Mostly, it's easier for me because I already like the Gurgenidze and the more on defenses. But okay, knight on f3, one knight on h6, and after bishop on the 3, well, more than ever, g6. Now it's more like, again, a pure Gurgenidze, but with this knight here. And now we're ready to try to exchange our bad bishop for the good bishop, having also the support of this knight in here. So after castles, bishop on f5 came. Knight on a3. Okay, Zoltan is also playing it more modern. You know, he wants to come this route for the knight. The same thing as we did, right? This is quite funny. It's like a mirror of this De Bruyck line. Zoltan is playing that with white, and it is correct. It's one of the good lines. Queen d7, so we can flirt also with the long castles, but try to speculate as long as you can, you know, depending on what white plays. Knight c2, normal move. Now Markovic took exchange and play knight on f5. And after knight on e3, I don't remember what is the move that Markovic played here, but I remember that I improved his game. I think he played maybe not the best move right here. Maybe play h4, I don't know. But bishop on h6 is one of the recommendations by the computer that initially doesn't look very good because, I mean, white is going to answer with knight on g5. But look at this. Okay, knight on g5 will be our main move. I remember that after knight takes f5, you don't need to exchange queens. We're safe. Don't worry about your king. Just recapture with the pawn. We want to also be ambitious. I don't think that queen takes f5 is a really bad move, but there's no need for that. Let us just take like this. Well, I mean, after knight g5, just closing it up with e6. And, well, here, even if bishop on e3, I think we can even just go immediately for long castles. I mean, we are trying to play aggressive now, maybe playing, you know, like a, I don't know, h4 and the rook in here. Maybe someday we can organize some f6. We have some attack, of course. White will do the same on their side, but this is interesting. But let us go back after this improvement by the computer and some further analysis that I made that I'm going to show you right now. Bishop on h6, I guess knight g5 is a better move. But now knight on g7. Again, I really like the maneuvering possibilities that we have in this De Bruyck line. And we can see now that we have both knights looking at the e6 square. So we have a cool grip there, and we'll decide if and when to put a knight in there on an e6 and which knight. I mean, again, I like the harmony in black's position and the modern character. So, for example, b3 to think about c4 by white was one of the lines that I was watching, and just h4. I think there was a computer analysis, not a real game. I'm pretty sure of this. So a4 might be the other line. Also, I guess I'm interested in this a4 because white wants to disencourage black from playing long castles. So already have, yeah. Also, of course, it's not easy to play with, try to win space with pawns on the king side. But yeah, with this a4, where white is trying to say, okay, don't be, you know, so calm about playing long castles. So surprisingly, with the computer and some analysis, I saw that actually we can actually just give the bishop here, and after f takes, well, they've even opened up the file for the rook, but knight c6. Now this g5 pawn is a target, so knight on c2 to allow the bishop to protect the pawn, and this knight, well, can go here, maybe can maneuver. This is quite interesting. Rook h5, you know, so insisting on attacking on g5, and it's not like because of this move, this means that we don't have short castles anymore, so we're gonna play long castles. We can always try to speculate. Maybe one day we'll play king f8 and king g8, or this knight will go here and king f8 and king g7. Nothing is defined yet, but we are attacking the g pawn. So queen on f3 is an interesting move because, well, of course, they're hitting on f7. But again, as I said, now knight on f5. Remember, thanks to this h-pawn, this knight is really solid here. There is no g4 coming ever. Queen g4, exclam, again recommended by the computer. White is simply threatening to play rook takes f5, because then this h5 here rook will be hanging. But then, I mean, just rook on h7. I think black keeps improving the pieces. You know, white is still with these two pieces right here, and we're improving the knights. Okay, we've lost the right to castle short, but we're not interested. Again, if we want, we could go like this. The rook moved to h5, and then it came back. But, well, maybe one day we can double up rooks. I mean, I only see improvement for black in this line. And to continue that, well, knight on e3 was a suggestion. I mean, I think it's important for white to, yeah, blow up this guy right here. He said this knight is too strong. So, but we can just exchange it, go with h3 to, yeah, force white to close it up. And now, okay, there are options, but even knight on c5, this cool move, right? We're threatening the queen, and I think white has to exchange them, because the knight on e4 will simply be too strong. This is not force, but we can go in this position, and I guess this is pretty equal. We can think about a lot of lines. I mean, I don't know. This knight could try to go to the queen side, but it could also go for f8 and then to e6. Stay there controlling the knight. Maybe coming here and coming back here. I mean, I don't know. I know I'm being a little bit ridiculous right now, but again, this position seems quite satisfactory for me. So, okay, I really recommend this, the Bruycker variation on the Caro-Kann, and mostly if you like the modern defenses and the Gurgenidze as myself, remember that you can always, after playing knight on c7, if nothing better, you can always play g6 and bishop on g7. If when we play d5 they close it up, we can play h5 and go for a Gurgenidze. I don't know, quite a satisfactory opening for me. I've tried this a lot of times and I really like it. And pretty unknown. I mean, this really is unusual, actually. So thanks a lot for watching. As usual, I'll leave Citronetta to ask you to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like the video. And well, thanks a lot for watching again, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. I'm back. I just forgot one thing. Well, actually, I just checked the video that I just showed you and realized that I forgot to show you all one particular line. I didn't want to not to do that. So I said that on the beginning of the video, I showed this line where white might take this. First of all, I know I already said it, but remember, on the internet, on Blitz games, a lot of people are going to play bishop takes on a6. Remember that knight a6 is a move that is totally unknown for a lot of people, so they might not even see this check. And even if they see it, they'll see this position. I told you here before that, well, you know, we shouldn't worry about this line because we have the pair of bishops and white doesn't have it, and our queen is bothering, you know, the possibility of short castles for for white. But I show you the lines with queen on e2 and exchange, and even queen on d3. Then I just mentioned this, that knight g on e2 should be the most logical move, but I didn't show you a line, so this is what I wanted to show you. So here we're going to play e6. Remember that what we want to do is to play d5. And there are, I'm going to show you just some really short lines, but these are important. So castles is going to be the main line. But here I want to show you both the possibility of d5 and also the possibility of e5. This is an important one. I know it might seem stupid, but if they do play e5, do not play d6. Just play the natural d5. This is what we want to play. So, because if you play d6, you might just lose a tempo. We're never going to have a lot of strength over the e5 square. So, I mean, here, let us say white plays, I don't know, bishop g5. And I think, well, you can look at this maybe with h4 and knight on e4. Someday they could be better. I mean, we will probably have to lose that tempo and play d5. So just play it in one shot. And obviously, we're not worried if they take en passant. We just develop the bishop. And, well, I'll just show you a few more lines, more moves in this line. So castles, we can develop here. We don't want to play knight on e7 because of knight on e4. And we will like this bishop to be able to maintain this diagonal. But knight on f6, and if they pin it, just pressure, you know, force him kind of to take. And, well, after g takes, we're totally fine. Here we have the g file to attack. We might just play bishop on d7 and long castles. We're fine. And so going back, yeah, e5, you should just play d5 again. So, but I wanted to show you as well in here the possibility of d5 as you know that in the main line castles, we are going to play d5. So it's good to know what to do when, white starts by preventing what we want to do. So we'll take it once with the c-pawn and then just develop the knight, putting some pressure on d5. Remember, we have total control of the d6 square, so we're fine, no need to rush anything. And castles bishop on e7, again, bishop on g5, we just castle. And let us say rook on e1. Here is good to already play d6. We're totally fine here. The only thing is what to do with this bishop, so d6. And, well, if they take it, just recapture with the bishop, have a big center, and the f-file for the rook, possibilities of attacking someday. On the squares, queen b6, it's fine. If they play knight d4, which should be better, well, we have e5 winning the tempo, and after this move, which, well, we'll be looking at maybe knight on c7 and some lines, we can just play queen b6, and if they play bishop on a, well, we keep it up. We could have played queen d8, but I like more queen on a5, and, well, there's not much white can do against a5 and a6 and b5. For example, queen d3, a6, knight, and b5, kind of Sveshnikov stuff. So going back, let us finally go to the main line. So remember, we were here on the opening, takes, check, knight c3, we take it, knight g2, e6 to play d5, castles, they allow us to play d5, and so we do. And, well, again, e5 is no problem for us. And now, I don't know, knight on e7 with idea of knight on f5 is already a good line. You could sit and analyze this position. There are a lot of options. Sometimes this knight will go to g6, but in general terms, we're actually pretty comfortable here. So maybe, that is totally playable. An alternative to that, the e5 will be knight on g3. And here I wanted to show you all a little line, because visually this might be a little bit more uncomfortable. You know, you will look at this and say, oh, well, now white's pieces look pretty harmonious, and maybe we're having some doubts about what do. We develop this bishop first or the knight? And let us say, because where? Because let us say we develop the knight. Well, do I really want to play knight on f6? If I put it on e7, what do I do with this bishop? You know, stuff like that. But I would simply recommend the interesting bishop on d7. And I like this because, for example, rook e1 will be a logical continuation, you know, just getting on the line, and mostly asking black, like, what are you doing? You should develop and, you know, stop your king from just being stranded on the center. But knight on e7 now, just blocking everything, and it's fine. It's just development. And if they lash out with f4, to me it's interesting that, there are a lot of moves for black here, but yeah, the engine's recommendation is long castles immediately, and kind of like, making this bishop on d7 move like more consistent, you know, like, well, if we also have always this possibility of castling long. So, well, I wanted just to show you that line again. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.